Sure we're also shining. We're live.
Yay! Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
I always have to pull us up on YouTube to make sure that everybody can see us
Me too.
properly.
I'm always very paranoid that like we're talking and no one sees us.
And like, yeah, we're talking into like the emptiness.
He's right.
Let's see here.
No.
Mute myself. We're just going to wait for everybody to show up.
Yeah, because we're kind of late. Hey, how you
We're
doing?
late. So sorry about that, everybody.
Technically, we're only 2 minutes late. Like that's the latest that we've been this entire year.
That is true. I will take that. I will definitely take that.
We've been. I'm proud of
We've been
us.
on it.
Hey, Amber. I'm gonna be here. I'm trying to like not be a complete nerd, but I was watching Overwatch before this, so
Oh, really?
I was just like, I will have a shirt. Hi, lovely people.
Hi, everybody. We're so excited for tonight's live. We are, as y'all know, this is my quarter for the book club, and the book that we're reading, in case you don't know or you haven't had a chance to get your copy yet, is Behold the Dreamers by Mbola Mbu, which tells a Cameroonian immigrant family story of basically living in America, this idea of the American dream and how that plays out. And, definitely make sure you go get your copy. We'll be doing our live discussing the book next month, I believe, right? September? Or is,
Yeah, it's September.
wow, that creeped up quick.
Yeah.
But anyways, today we wanted to do a very special live, just basically piggybacking off of the topic of our quarter, which is talking about immigrants and the Black immigrant experience in America. And as you all know, this is Black Prose Club, and we are, very, very focused on telling all Black stories across the entire diaspora. Being Black is not a monolith. And here at Black Prose Club, Black lives, Black books, and Black writers and authors have always mattered. And Black stories and voices are important to us. So that's kind of why I chose this book for this quarter, because I feel like the Black immigrant experience is something that's not really discussed often, especially the Black immigrant experience in the West, in America specifically. So I say all that to say, first we're going to introduce ourselves, and then I'm going to introduce our special guest. So my name is Oshale, for those that don't know, and I have Oshi Reads, my booktube channel here on YouTube, and I'm also Oshi Reads on Bookstagram and Oshale_O'Day over on Twitter.
I'm Brittany, also known as Melanin Eclectic. I am Melanin Eclectic on here, Twitter, there we go, Twitter and Instagram, and my shop is also Melanin Eclectic, and my shop Instagram is Shop Melanin Eclectic. There we go.
Yeah. And before I introduce our special guest, I will address the elephant in the room. We are missing Miss Troy Nicole tonight. She just had an emergency that she is dealing with, but she is very much missed. And yep, we will let her know that you all missed her, and you can catch her at our next live or podcast. But tonight's special guest is someone who can definitely speak to the Black immigrant experience here in America. She is someone who has been such an amazing supporter of our book club. She always shows up for us. She always has like the best opinions too about books and just social issues that are going on, not just in our community, but just in general. And so we're super excited to finally have a chance to host her. So you may know her as, I can never say this word, so I'm going to have Brittany say it. You may know her as
Abominable Book Girls.
That word, I can't do it. But we know her as Isita, and now you all know her as Isita, and we are so happy to have you.
Hi. Hi, guys.
Hi.
I'm doing abominable.
Can you say abominable?
A lot of people have a hard time with it, though. to be fair.
It's cool.
Which makes it all the more fun for me. Also.
Right.
So before we all get started, I just wanted to give each of us to kind of give like background a little bit. So I said, since you're a special guest, I kind of wanted to start with you and kind of give us your background and a little bit of your family history and where you're from.
Okay. My name is Isata. I was born in Freetown, Sierra Leone, which is on the west coast of Africa. Most people know Liberia, so it's the country right next to Liberia. I came to America in 1998, the summer of 98. I always say I was 8, but technically I was like 7 turning 8. Yeah, because I turned 8 in October. We had a civil war in my country. I left. We went to Guinea-Bissau. I waited for my mom to get there. And then we went to Gambia. And then we waited for the lottery. And the lottery is what you wait for to see if you can be given permission to enter the United States as a refugee. So we did the refugee lottery. And then after a year, we got the refugee lottery. And then they brought us to America.
And you keep saying we. Who is we?
Okay, so the journey began with me, my uncle, which is my mom's brother, and my aunt, which is my mom's first cousin. But Africans were like, we're all aunts. So it was us. Then my mom came to Guinea-Bissau 2 weeks later, which was very scary. Then we all 3 of us, including me, that's 4, we went to Gambia. And then to come to America, it was just me and my mom.
Wow. So did they stay where they were? Or?
My uncle ended up going to Antigua because he was not given a refugee visa.
Okay.
And then my aunt ended up going to England after a while because her older sister was an English citizen. So after a while, she got to go there. And most of my other relatives are still back. Well, my older relatives are still back home.
Okay. Have you been back?
No, I'm not going. I'm not going anytime soon. I'm scared.
Yeah, I understand that. Okay, so we're definitely so much to unpack there, but I want to move on to Brittany because she's an immigrant technically.
Technically. I mean, you're not.
I am technically not an immigrant.
Okay, you're a migrant.
Yes, in a way. The military, my dad is a Marine, and my parents made the decision when I was the ripe age of 18 months that stationing over in Okinawa, Japan was a good idea. So as soon as I was old enough to get the required shots, we headed right over there. And I grew up in Okinawa, Japan. And then when I was 15 years old, we moved to Stuttgart, Germany. And then when I was 17 years old, we moved to Pensacola, Florida. And so I don't have an immigrant experience. Like mine was just the military life. Like that could be a totally different life for a totally different day. But I will be able to actually understand some of the things that you guys went through because we moved to a place where they literally tried to tell us we weren't, even though my dad was a Marine.
Yeah, it's not the immigrant experience, but it's an experience of having lived outside of the U.S. and living in a country where, interestingly enough for you, you're majorly a minority.
Mm-hmm.
And there aren't a lot of Black people there. So that's like a whole another ballgame. And you're right, we probably could have a whole live on the Black military experience.
Right. We were
And then for me, my background is Nigerian. My parents brought us here, us being me and my brother. I have 2 brothers, but one brother was born here. Brought me and my brother to America in, I want to say it was 1994. Yeah, I think it was 1994. Ironically enough, September 11th, 1994. And we came on we had a 1-year visa. So my dad wrote this book about Chinua Achebe. For those that don't know, Chinua Achebe wrote Things Fall Apart. He's a very famous Nigerian novelist, author. And my dad wrote a book about Queen Achebe's writing Things Fall Apart. And it was an academic book, kind of the book that would be taught in classes on a collegiate level. And so because of the book that he wrote, sorry, I'm kind of hearing like an echo. Do y'all hear that?
I don't know if that's fine.
Like feedback?
I hear feedback, but test it again. Say something.
Hello?
Okay. Yeah. I'm about to say.
Okay.
You're good. We'll just unmute you when you talk.
Okay. So essentially, my dad got a 1-year sabbatical visa to come to America to teach at UPenn, or University of Pennsylvania. And he somehow convinced them to also give it to his family, which was like unheard of back then. Like usually it would be like he would go, and then once the year was over, he would either come back or he would try to figure out how to get us over there. But they extended it to our entire family. And so for the first year, it was so weird. The whole thing was weird because I remember being a little girl and my dad used to play this game with me. And he, you know, when you're like 5 years old, you think it's just like a fun game. You don't really know what's going on. But he would have his hands out like this. I'm trying to see if you guys can see, like fist.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
And I would have to choose like which. And you know, I would choose, and he would open up his fist, and in his fist would be like a little piece of paper, and there'd be something written on there. And so whatever I chose, he went with, which obviously he, as an adult, he didn't go with it fully, but it was like, I guess he was using me as like confirmation or something. It was really weird. So I remember my dad telling me the story when I was old enough to understand what was happening. He was like, you actually helped us choose to come to America versus going to the UK. He was like, all those games I used to play with you, like pick. And I was just like, Dad, that's not very reassuring about your decision-making skill.
You were 5-year-old? Oh, okay, sir. All right.
There was no plans. It was just solely based on your 4-year-old decision.
Flying by the seat of our pants. I was like, ooh. But so we came for a year, and then after a year, he got a job teaching at the school he teaches at now in North Carolina. And so we got a chance to stay, and eventually we got green cards, and eventually we were able to become citizens after many, many years and lots of money spent. But yeah, so that's a little bit of my background and my experience. So I haven't started reading the book yet. For those that don't know, we are having a live read with me on, I want to say it's tomorrow. Isn't it tomorrow at 4 p.m.?
We have the hand calendar.
Tomorrow at 4 p.m. So if you're like me and you haven't started the book yet, this is a perfect time to start. You can come read with me, come join me. We haven't started the book yet, so we really just wanted to talk about how the Black immigrant experience is a little bit different from the Black experience in America, or even the African American experience, and how there are differences between all of those different, what is the right word, like titles, I guess, on Blackness?
Nationalities?
Titles?
Yeah.
I call them titles because technically we're American.
I'm not.
Well,
green card.
That's a whole other thing. It's like some of us are American living in America, and some of us are not American.
Residents, yeah.
But then we're all Black living in America.
Yeah.
So they're different nationalities, but same race.
They're different nationalities, and also I feel like it's very important to differentiate the Black Americans who are descendants of American chattel slavery, because that's a completely different experience with a different history, with a different weight to it, and how much the descendants of American chattel slavery have paved the way in terms of civil rights for Black people all over the world to come to America. Because if it wasn't for the civil rights movement and the different laws that were written into place regarding immigration and Black people being able to immigrate into the States, my family wouldn't have been able to come here. Your family wouldn't have been able to come here, Isata. Like, if it wasn't for the work that those civil rights leaders did, and the blood that was shed, the hard work, the activism that went forth, like none of us would be here. Those of us who are from elsewhere. But that, I feel like that gets overshadowed a lot. And I also feel like because we are not descendants.
I think that was my computer. Keep talking.
Oh, I feel like because we are not the descendants of American chattel slavery, there is kind of like a little bit of a tension in the relationship that each side has to work harder to bridge the gap. What has your experience been with that? Anyone?
So
I'm let her go first.
Interesting. Being a descendant of American chattel slavery, I don't know if I am or if I'm not. So the country that I'm from is, well, the capital that I was born in is called Freetown. Freetown is a capital that is technically a colony originally created by the British. So I don't know if anyone's ever watched the Book of Negroes or read the Book of Negroes, because we're a reading community, supposedly. So we read, listen, same thing. Same thing. So there was a point in time when they call them freed slaves were sent to Norway, and from Norway they were supposed to go start their own free colony in Liberia. Some of them ended up in Nigeria. A lot of them ended up in Liberia. Some ended up in a small colony in Sierra Leone called Freetown. Free slaves, Freetown. The Brits are so creative. We know. So the people in Freetown who are called Creole, I'm not Creole, that's a tribe thing. The people in Freetown who are called Creole are an amalgamation of Nigerians, Americans, Maroon Islanders, like just a horde of different people brought together on this place. I, tribal wise, I am Mende, I am Madingo, I am Timni, I am, what else did they say I was? One other thing. Creole is one of them, but that doesn't mean anything technically speaking. So even though I've seen this divide before between Africans and African Americans, to where Africans say this really pompous thing where they're like, oh, I know my ancestors. But like those of us who know history, we're like, no, actually you don't. You think you do, but after 4 generations, you're lost, because there were other people who were brought back who could have married into your family or anything, and you don't know. Therefore, when I see the people saying, oh, but your ancestors didn't have to go through chattel slavery, I don't know. They might have, they might not have. I no longer, because I was one of the pompous people who used to say the dumb stuff. I'm no longer so pompous to think that I'm excluded from this conversation. I do know, though, that I certainly get told and have been told since I came here by Black Americans that I don't understand their plight, and I'm often othered by Black Americans, less so now that being African is cool. Less so now. But I still got this memory, and I still remember when they used to laugh at my food, and they used to make fun of my hairstyles, and they used to laugh at like our music and our clothes, and now it's all cool and it's popular or whatever, I guess. But we weren't allowed to feel the same way. We weren't allowed to think the same things because people felt like we didn't have the same experiences.
Yeah. So the opposite of that is what I experience, which is hilarious because I mean, we can even bring examples to the fact that I own a stationery shop where I was told like they were looking for African things and didn't feel like coming to me for customs was right because I was African American and I was just doing it for profit. And it was just kind of like, but also, I have dated guys in the past whose mothers told me that I was not good enough to date their sons because I was African American and they were.
Those are Nigerian moms.
Yes. Also Haitian moms as well.
Oh, yes.
So I've gotten that experience where like I'm not Black enough, but that has come from African Americans and Africans. So because when I moved to the States, I wasn't Black enough, and then when I started going to college and they were telling me like, well, I can trace my ancestors. Can you? And I was like, well, obviously not, bro. Like, I'm not paying for it. So obviously I can't trace it. But I'm petty. Now that you mentioned the whole Freetown thing, I'm going to specifically ask them if they can, because I'm petty now.
They can't go past 4 generations. Let them try. They can't.
Yeah, like definitely quoted that, and I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that because I actually have read that book, and I read it in my African study class in college that I took as a freebie class because I knew it was a Black woman teaching it, and therefore I knew I was going to have a Black teacher, and that was why I took the class. Yeah.
To me, it's so interesting because I remember when I came to America with my family, for the first year that we lived here, I went to an inner city school, and my parents didn't understand it. Like, they didn't understand like inner city hood, none of that. We didn't understand any of it. I mean, I didn't even know that slavery happened. I mean, I was a little girl when I came over here, so I didn't understand. There was a lot I didn't understand. I was actually shocked that Black people were here because I thought America was like the land of white people. So when I came here and I saw other Black people, I was really excited. But I went through a lot of trauma in the school that I went to because I was severely bullied. I was severely bullied for my hair because it was not relaxed, for the fact that I was a darker skin tone, when a lot of the kids that lived in that particular neighborhood in Philly were like mixed. They were Black, but there was a lot of race mixing. So a lot of them were like mulatto or just fair skinned Black people. So I was made fun of for my skin tone. I was made fun of for my accent because obviously I had a Nigerian accent. I mean, for my food, just everything. And so coming from a country where everyone's Black and you're surrounded by your culture, by your tribe, by your family as a child, and then coming to a situation where you're being severely bullied for everything that you are, it's by people that look like you, who you're excited to see, it's very traumatizing. So I remember for about a year or two, I purposefully assimilated myself as much as possible. Like, I remember I stopped speaking for a whole year, and I would just watch TV so that I could learn the American accent. That's why a lot of people say, like, you don't have an accent, you sound like a news reporter.
I hate that.
On purpose. I did that on purpose because I was trying to assimilate. So I like stopped talking. I like, learn, assimilate as much as I could, watch as much as I could of TV to try to get American culture, to try to fit in, because I didn't want to continue to be bullied so bad. And it was like, no matter what I did, it didn't matter, because the Black kids were like, oh, you're savage, or you where you come from, there's no lights, or
what? You sleep in trees.
Yeah, you
sleep in trees.
You would sleep in trees. Like, it was like everything was attacked. There was a lot of confusion, and my parents, their way of combating it, like their way of like talking to me about it was like, well, they don't know where they come from. They're very bitter. You have culture. They're this, they're that. So it's like, it's really strange, because it's like on one side, you have people who look like you, who you're experiencing this trauma that you're not expecting, and you don't really know how to react as a child. And then from the other side, you have your parents being like, well, it's because, you know who you are, and you have culture, and you have this, and you have that, and they don't have any of these things. And so they're angry. And I was just, and me not understanding slavery, not understanding the history of Blacks in America, not understanding any of it, was very confusing. It wasn't until I started to educate myself. Like, I remember the first day we learned about slavery in school, in second grade, from a white teacher in an overcrowded classroom in an underfunded school in the hood, was literally her passing out these worksheets of the slaves and how they were laid out on the ship.
Like, I'm sorry, wait. She gave you slave worksheets?
Yes.
Were y'all supposed to color them? Please tell me no.
Yes.
Oh my God.
It was this worksheet of the slaves and like how they were laid out on the ships. And like, I just remember, I will never forget this. I just remember looking at this worksheet, and in my little like 6-7-year-old mind, my mom, to this day, I don't remember what happened. And my mom said she had to come get me from school because I just started screaming. I couldn't believe that was a real thing. Like, I was just like, what do you mean they were chained to the bottom of ship? Like, what is happening? So that was very traumatic.
In second grade, she gave you a drawing that you were supposed to color of people being chained to a ship?
Yeah, it was like, you know how they always show those diagrams of how they were laid out?
They probably had one head, foot. I can see it in my ear.
See, Amber knows. She says, I'm pretty sure I had that worksheet at one point.
That's what I'm pretty sure we did too.
So
Because ours, I think we had to cut ours out after we did it.
Cut them out for what?
so that was like another trauma. So then I went home and
Oh
my parents couldn't even really fully explain it to me because they were also not very educated on slavery in America and what happened. And the irony is, like, I obviously, one of my majors was like African studies. I've done a lot of reading and learning and stuff. And the irony is, Nigeria and Nigerians were actually one of the biggest sellers of their own people to the white people, to the British, to the Americans, to whoever, to the Portuguese. Nigerians were one of the biggest. Like, we sold, I want to say the most, but I might be wrong, but it was definitely a large amount of our own people. And so it's almost like we don't even know our own history, or like it's been so buried on that side of things. And like the role that we played in the slave trade has been either buried or it's very much like swept under the rug, you know? So it's like for my own parents to not really even be able to really fully educate me on anything about slavery or what was happening to me as a kid. And so it was just like, so I kind of basically had to, then we moved from that town to this small town right outside of Philadelphia called Oxford, Pennsylvania, which is like this tiny town that's majority white. I think we were one of 2 Black families in the entire town. And I remember there were so many microaggressions, but at the time I didn't really understand it. Like how when one girl in my 3rd grade classroom had a birthday party and everyone got an invitation except for me. And so I went home crying. And then the next day, she brought my invitation. And then when I went to the party, all the little white girls played by themselves over to a corner and did not even talk to me. Like weird things like that, where again, as a child, because I feel like Black American children are like explained to by their parents, like, this is what you're going to face. You're going to face racism. Like, this is going to happen. I got none of those talks because it wasn't my background. So it's like walking into it and basically having to learn as you go, having to figure things out as you go.
You know what's interesting, actually?
What?
Your story and mine are similar, but not. You had the one where like the white kids isolated you. When I came, the Black American kids, because I grew up in what's considered inner city, but to be honest, I found out it was inner city like last year, just being very honest. I didn't know because like we had everything. We used to get authors come to our school. Mark Brown came to our school. How's that inner city?
That's been so lit. What?
I didn't think ours was, but apparently it was. Maybe it was one of those
in the inner city if you had authors coming to your school.
Bruh, they said it's inner city. They said it's inner city. We didn't have many white people in our school. We had like less than 2% white people in our elementary school. And when I first came to America, first problem was they wanted to put me in ESL. My mom lost her shit. Okay? Lost her whole mind. Lost it completely. Went off on them, especially because I corrected one person because they said I don't speak English good. And I was like, you don't speak English well. And my mom lost it. She goes, she just corrected your English. What are you? And so after that, I was also supposed to be tested for gifted and talented, but they didn't do that. They just put me back in 2nd grade again because I'd been in 2nd grade twice at that point, not because I'm dumb, but because I went from one country to another country and they put you back.
Yeah,
and then to this country, and there's an age system here.
They do.
Yeah. So there was that first, and then it was I got to the school and I tried to make Black friends, but they didn't like me. They made fun of me. I was called a tar baby. They called me Blackie. They said all kinds of stuff to me. And so I hung out with the other foreign kids. Like I was just the fob kid. And that was even tough because to hang out with the other foreign kids, like the Pakistani kids, I had to prove I was Muslim. Because like, what do you mean you're Black and Muslim? That's not a thing. Because no. Right. So I had to hang out with like the Asians, like I guess they're all Asians. There weren't really many Middle Easterners. I hung out with those kids and like the 2 white kids, we all hung out together because we were the outsiders. So it was like 6 of us together. I didn't get invited to parties, and if I did, I couldn't go anyway because a single parent, mom is an African. She doesn't know them. She hasn't spoken to them. They didn't give her 2 months notice. I don't know who.
Also, never met her. She never met her parents.
You know,
They don't
not
go
a
to church.
But I do know when it was time for recess, I remember this one particular one because it was before I got to like where I could hang out with some black kids in 3rd grade. But I remember because they were playing Power Rangers and I wanted to be the red Power Ranger because red's my favorite color. They didn't let me play.
Because they already had a black ranger.
They were all black kids. The black American kids wouldn't let me play.
Where did you grow up?
In Alief, in Houston, Texas.
Which part is Alief? Is that north?
Southwest Alief, Texas.
Oh,
it's
even worse. Jesus.
So they didn't let me play, but like I started hanging out. That's why I had to prove that I was Muslim, because if I wanted friends, like
you needed.
I mean, I like to read and stuff, but I don't. When I was sitting by myself for too long, they talked like the teachers. I was very nosy. I'm still pretty nosy. I would pay attention to them because I have this thing where I'll just sit and listen, and people don't notice I'm paying attention. So if I sat by myself, they would talk to themselves or talk amongst themselves and suggest counseling because I'm not interacting. Which now, as someone who deals with kids, I see where that would come from. Mm-hmm. But even still, they would never ask me why I'm not playing. They would just talk amongst each other. So I proved to the kids that I was Muslim. So then I got to play with them. And then I got to be the Red Power Ranger. But there was like a lot of, you did the whole not speaking thing. I also assimilated the way I spoke just because I personally was getting frustrated with them saying, huh, or what, all the time, so much so that now it's like a tick for me. If I hear somebody who's from another country speaking English and you can tell they're speaking English, and let me not call people out their name, somebody hears them speaking, but there's those people who they hear foreign people and they're just like, huh, regardless of how clear they're speaking, I will go off because you have no reason. If you don't understand, say, hey, I'm sorry, really don't understand. Can you please slow it down and say it again? Not huh. That huh, it ticks me off. But where you had to go silent and your mom said that, my mom also said the same thing about they don't know where they come from, they don't know their culture, so they don't understand. You should educate them. I tried to do that. They didn't care. I wanted to hang out with them just because I knew there were black kids here because we had satellite back home. So I used to watch Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and I used to watch My Brother and Me. So I thought, oh, the black kids are and they eat with everything. Oh, they're so nice. And then I come here, that ain't it.
Oh my gosh.
It's interesting because it's like it's not until you're older and you educate yourself that you start to understand the self-hatred and the division that is purposefully caused by white supremacy, and how it's like, you know, if we're divided, obviously we can't come together. And it's that place of like even black kids and black people are anti-black, and how anti-blackness is so pervasive that it has to be unlearned. And it's like when you're a child, you don't understand that, and so you just see the mistreatment, you see the bullying, and it can really harden your heart. Because I remember when I went to college, I had a whole bunch of friends from my friend group was actually pretty diverse, but I had a whole lot of African friends who didn't talk to Black Americans at all because they had such negative experiences as children, either coming to America or even some of them were born in America, but they had so many negative experiences that it had hardened them. And they weren't even in a place where they were willing to let those walls come down or have any type of healing or reconciliation of like, okay, we're older now, like we're obviously educated, like we've outgrown all of that, we let it go. It's like some of them were like, nah, I'm gonna hate you for life. And it's like, okay. For me, like I started to make friends with Black Americans when I got really involved with church. Like my family got really involved with church when I was in like middle school. And it was kind of like middle school, high school age that I started to go to church all the time. And I met other Black girls and we just bonded and we had things in common. And so that was kind of like my bridge. Because before that, most of my friends were like white, honestly, and in school, while my friends were white in school. And then it wasn't until I really started getting involved in church that I kind of started to make friends with especially Black girls and just have that bond. And also, it's like as a teenager, you become more comfortable in some ways in who you are. And when you can meet other Black kids that validate your, like the things that you like to do, you know what I'm saying? Because Blackness is so pigeonholed. It's like, oh, why do you speak so properly? Oh, why do you like this? Oh, why do you like theater? Oh, why do you like, anime? Why do you like classic films? Why do you like, it's
country?
It's like, why do you like this?
Country's
That's stupid.
Why do you
like this? And so when you meet other Black kids that are into the same things as you, it validates you and your experience and things that you like, and you're like, oh, this is fine. Like, I have friends who like this too. Like, I'm chilling, I'm good. So that's kind of how it was with my church friends. It was like all of us girls had the same interests, whereas I was going to school, and a lot of the Black kids at school were definitely way more about that life than I could ever pretend to be. So I didn't have a lot in common with them, because they were a lot of them had so many like scarring experiences that I just didn't have, that we couldn't relate on so many things. And so it was nice to actually like meet other kids that had the similar interests to me. And it wasn't like, oh, you don't want to be a cheerleader, or you don't want to do this, you don't want to do this, so you're not going to have any Black friends. It was like, oh, I have Black friends who also like theater and who also enjoy watching Sailor Moon episodes on sleepovers, and
also sing musicals loudly.
Right. So that was, yeah.
So I'm gonna just ask this question because I moved back to the States when I was 17. Highly don't recommend that to any parent that's watching. Please do not move your children from one culture to another culture when they're also transitioning to be an adult. That's rude.
Yeah.
I probably will harp on that for the rest of my life. Don't do that to your kids. Which brings me to this question. Do you feel like it was better for you to be shocked when you were, 5, 6, and 7 versus if you have to, it's like just for college? Do you think that would have been like which do you think is better? Being older and being able to find out information yourself, or being younger and then switched over?
Oh man. I feel like being younger is better, because children assimilate very quickly and children adapt very quickly. I feel like when you're older, it's a lot harder, because I see a lot of Africans who come over to America for college, and at that point, a lot of who you are is like kind of set in stone. There's not a lot of assimilation. You may assimilate to certain cultural norms. You may assimilate to just the American way of life, but a lot of like who you are and how entrenched you are in your culture, which isn't a bad thing at all, is already set in stone. And so it makes it so much harder for you to assimilate and to adapt. And in fact, some of them don't adapt at all, and they just have their own communities and they form their own communities, which is totally cool. I met a lot of kids like that who all their friends were Nigerian, because I'm Nigerian, I can only speak for Nigerians, but all their friends were Nigerian. Like, they only hung out with Nigerian people. They like were from like a part of Jersey where it was literally like an all Nigerian neighborhood, or a part of Texas where it was like an all Nigerian neighborhood. Like, it was literally like little Nigeria, depending on what tribe they were from. A lot of them were some of them were Igbo, but it was like they had their tight knit little communities, and because a lot of them had come over when they were older, it just makes it a lot harder when it comes to assimilating. And then it brings up the question of like, well, why do you have to assimilate? And it's like,
that was my next question.
Yeah, why do you have to assimilate? I mean, I feel like as a child, you absolutely have to assimilate, because you have to survive. You're in school.
Yeah, that's a totally different thing.
Unless your parents homeschool you and like you grew up in like a little Nigeria or whatever African country you're from, if you grew up in like a little bubble of your culture, then you're homeschooled, then you don't have to assimilate. But if you're going to school every day and you're expected to be in clubs and make friends and, go to camp, although I was never allowed to go to camp, and all those other like American things, you're not going to make it if you don't assimilate. You're just not.
I feel like it's better to come as an adult, or not an adult, like a teen, because I've always been, forgive me for saying this, I've always been a dickhead. All my life, just a dickhead. Not like, I'm not rude to other people. I'm just like really, I know who I am. Sometimes I'll give and take based on like small things, but this is what I said. I meant it. It's not changing. So like the kids used to make fun of me for my food. I didn't care. I would just tell them, but I didn't say you could have any. Because I was like legit confused. I was legit confused.
And conversation. I didn't offer this to you.
I didn't think you could have any. So things like that used to bother me. But I feel like if I came when I was older, that would be, it would be more prominent than my need for survival to assimilate. Because again, there were certain things I used to say that people just used to say, huh. For say and do. For example, we had spelling tests. First of all, I still maintain that I knew more spelling words than my second grade teacher. Don't care. Don't at me. I knew more words than she did because I said so. Because she would give us these words, the spelling words, right? And like because you had to give you the spelling words on Monday, and then you practice them, and then Thursday's a pretest, and Friday's the quiz, right? I never used to look at that because I know those words. However, I know them in Queen's English, not American English. Americans, I don't care who's mad. Americans don't spell things properly. They just don't. So
I'm not going there with you. Yeah, ma'am. I'm not saying this book on fire because you want to say things like that.
No, I'm gonna say that. This is me by myself. This is not Black Prose.
Anytime there's a special guest, Twitter will still burn.
We need one of those little disclaimers that we just put up, like this guest views does not represent.
These are my.
I understand what she's saying though, because
I do.
Because if you say English,
yeah, when I moved to the States, I was told that I was too proper, but also understanding I guess I should explain this. I went to American schools, but they were DOD schools. So that's Department of Defense schools. And they were college prep specific. So everything that we did was for college prep only. The military did not see a reason to do everything else. So we had band and stuff, but it was not on the same emphasis as everything else. Plus, I didn't have an accent because when I lived overseas, we worked on learning multiple languages. So there was no reason to have an accent. Plus, my English teachers did not allow any type of slang or vernacular. Honestly, anything Black, she did not allow it. If I went to go visit family and came back with any type of country twang, she was ripping it out of me, basically. So coming to the States and hearing things like being told that I'm saying things wrong, where I'm like, am I saying them wrong? Or are you guys just not pronouncing the words correctly? Because the word is this, and y'all are saying this. And
but
now
even that I gave for that one. Because I would give to some things. But to me, this was my logic. For anyone who wants to at me, you keep your angry fingers to yourself. If I come here and you say you're speaking English originates from England. I just felt like, and this was me at 8. This is why I said I've always been a dickhead.
Oh my God.
At age 8, okay? I just felt like English should be English, not Americanish. Not that there's anything wrong with American English, just saying it's not English. So when I would write these words in English, I would spell them in English. I would, of course, get it wrong because it wasn't, ketchup is not that. It's KETHU, basic. Color is not OUR. CLOUR because basic. Whatever. So they'd take off points and I would write, this is not English. And my mom literally had to get on me and say, stop. So I've always been like a dickhead. I gave on certain things like saying veranda and saying settee, things like that I originally learned to say in English versus American English, like couch, or what do they call the veranda again? I just learned Puerto Rico, so I've been
patio?
patio.
Yeah.
Thank you. Patio. See? Basic.
I know.
So I had to stop saying those things.
Tell us how you really feel.
I used to text my mom when they would say words I didn't know. I would literally text my mom like, "What is this?" And she'd respond, "Oh, that's what that is." Okay.
My mom actually still have that now because now I do it to her when she says the thing. I tell her the American way to say it, and it's not to say that the American way is the wrong way or it's the least impressive way. I say basic just because that's not what I learned, and then I come here and I have to learn all these new words. I have to say all these new things, and nobody tries to meet me halfway to even try to understand what I'm saying. I just 100% have to change me so you can get it. And I feel like if I'd come later on, and I'm taking this from like Americana, not from Behold the Dreamers, because I read that book and that was a struggle bus. I don't want to come as a grown person. I want to come as a teen-ish, because then I can still hold some of myself. That's being the way I've been, a dickhead. That propels me to like retain myself and not feel like, oh, I have to speak this way. I'll still speak how I speak, and you have to now work to meet me halfway. I don't have to do all the work for you, only for you to still say, huh, because I said it too fast, or my inflection was off, or you didn't like whatever. I do have cousins, because that was another thing. I had cousins in America, actual cousins and African cousins, which are people that are not related to you, but you're from the same country and you're in the same community, so you're cousins. Yeah, basically. I did have cousins who were born here, who that was when African wasn't cool, so they weren't African. They like went by initials. And I'm always African and proud. I've been that. I'm like, no, I'm African, but we can't be cousins, and I'm African and you're not. So you can see why I wasn't the favorite cousin. I was no one wanted to take places. They never wanted to be around.
I have a question now.
Hold on.
Says that it was better as a child. You say that it was better to be kind of an adult. So my next question is, both of you, what?
I just wanted to point out Mrs. WOC Reader's comment, because I feel like before we move on, the one where she says, my mother and father grew up on the Queen's English. They grew up in countries that had only recently gotten independence when they were kids. It was indoctrinated to speak a specific way, and that's exactly it.
Yep.
Yeah. That's still a good segue to my question. So you both came to the States when you were young, both felt like you had to acclimate to survive, which, being as though kids are dicks, I could totally see that being a thing, because I couldn't acclimate when I was 17. I was too set in my ways. And my mother and father taught me, had really like drilled it in my head that there was nothing wrong with me being who I was. So I didn't get a chance. I had one friend my senior year of high school, and she was also a military brat whose parents stationed to that crap place. So we were literally stuck together on like necessity, not friendship. We are not friends now. We almost fought senior year. Yeah. But my question to you is, what are you doing now that you're an adult? What are you doing to take back the things that you suppressed as kids, like in terms of your culture and your identity?
Take back. I blast African music all the time. Obnoxiously loud. Sometimes I'll speak pidgin to people who I know don't understand me because I can. And they'll have to ask me what I said, because once upon a time, you asked me what I said when I spoke English. Now you ask me what I say when I speak my own language, so you have to learn it. I told you I've had since birth. I show people food, like African food from different countries. I try as best as I can to like educate about African history and how it coincides with African American history, to attempt to bridge the gap a little bit. Sometimes it works, sometimes not so much. But that's the best I can do. Unfortunately, I no longer remember how I used to speak. English was always my first language. Because back home, my grandfather said that because they knew they were going to put me in international schools, which were like the private schools, you had to speak English or French, or I think they said Latin at our school, but who the hell? I was like, who knows that? So you couldn't speak our dialect, which was Creole for our country. So I had to learn English first. I could understand Creole. I didn't start speaking it till I came here. So I just feel like, for me, I just do the things that I wasn't allowed to do to express myself because I can't remember how I used to talk. So I just talk how I'm going to talk now.
Yeah. For me, it was more like code switching because my parents never 100% assimilated. So it was kind of like when I was in school, I had to assimilate to a certain point to American culture to survive that environment. But then when I came home, we still listen to our music. We eat all the foods. Like my mom, we incorporated some American foods into our diet. Like I remember the first time I ever tried pizza, I thought it was disgusting. But over time, like we assimilated certain things, like the very American foods, like because of American holidays. So we like, we incorporated burgers into our diet because of the 4th of July. We incorporated pizza into our diet because it was always served in school. I think my mom would make like this meatloaf casserole thing because probably some like TV show we watched or something like that. But 99.9% of the foods that we ate were Nigerian food. And we never really ate out. I remember I never really ate out until I was in high school and I had a driver's license and I could actually drive myself to the drive-through to the restaurants because my mom did not play that. Like we ate home cooked meals and we still wore our clothing, and I don't know, it was almost like when I left the house, I was like a different person from when I was at home. So because my parents kept to our same like traditions and things, so it's more like code switching than anything else. It's more like when you go as a Black person and you work in corporate America with all white people, and then you go home or you go hang out with your friends. It's like kind of the same thing. And so I don't feel like I lost that much. Maybe language, and that's about it. Because my whole family is back in Nigeria, so like it's only my immediate family that's here. Most of my family is still back home, so how much can you really assimilate if your family's still, But yeah, that's not how it was for me. Like it was very much like code switching. Like, oh, it's code. And it's kind of like how I think, well, how I learned to be such a good actress because I had already been acting for so long.
Also, people in the chat, feel free to ask questions as well, just because everybody's experiences are valid, and it'd be interesting to see how many people can share the experiences that you two have had. I'm just basically asking questions because I am technically the African American in this conversation. So I'm on the opposing side. I'm not going to say opposing because unfortunately there is this colorism issue that has been created, and it's been created from white supremacy and this insane need to feel like you're better than someone because you've been treated down for so long. So that brings up the question, because I saw in the comments that people said that when they went to college, they actually hung out with just Africans and Caribbeans because they had bad experiences with African Americans. And then you guys said that when you guys got older, your crowds mixed in a little bit more with Black. But my question to you now is, how do you feel that you as Black immigrants play a part in the I'm going to call it the colorism debate, but it's not really a colorism thing. Do we say the Black debate or the Black enough debate?
Did I ask for a debate?
I feel like it's exceptionalism because what I noticed, and when I was younger and I was less educated and I didn't really understand the full ramifications of my actions or even what I was participating in, which is white supremacy, I noticed very early on that white people always gravitated towards me. And if they had to choose any Black person in the room, they would more likely choose me. And where the Black kids were saying, where I should specify, where the African American Black kids were saying, your name is weird, or, you know, why is your name like this, or why is it spelled like this? The white kids and the white people were saying, like, wow, that is so fascinating. It's so interesting. You're from Nigeria. Oh, wow. Oh, that's so, oh, come talk to me more about that at lunch. Here's a hall pass. Like, there was a special treatment, like, oh, special Black. Oh, okay, she's not like the regular.
Exotic Black.
She's not like the regular N-words out here. She's, oh, we can just place her a little bit higher on the pedestal, you know.
The magical one.
It's like, I have to step out of the class. Oh, Shalay, you're in charge. Oh, I have to do this. Oh, so, and like when I was a kid.
They put you in charge of a classroom?
Yeah.
You know when the teacher has to use the restroom and stuff like that, the monitor of the classroom? Oh, wasn't a thing. That was a thing.
Or like if there was like a mean teacher that was like mean to everyone else in the class, especially in like a predominantly like Black class, like my school district was divided really weird when I moved to North Carolina, and I would have some classes that were considered the ghetto class because it was like from predominantly Black students. And then you have the smart classes, like the AP classes and the accelerated classes and the honor classes, which were mostly white. And so the teachers saw me as like the safe Black kid. So if they had to teach like that predominantly Black class and I was in there, I was like the safe one. So they'd be like, okay, well, you're in charge, I have to do this. Or like, you pass out the papers, or you read chapter 5. Like, it was constantly like, and when I remember as a child or as a teen, I didn't understand what was going on. I just thought, I honestly don't know what I thought, but I was just like, oh, okay. You know, I was like accepting it. I was taking all the favor. I was taking all of the like special treatment, and I didn't think anything of it. And it wasn't until I went to college and I started really studying, because like I said, one of my majors is African studies, and I really started to unpack and I started to read and I started to learn that I understood what was happening. And it's very much like that field slave, house slave mentality where white supremacy, they pick somebody in order to cause division. And I didn't even understand that I was participating in that. I honestly don't know what I thought at that age. I just was ignorant. And so now that I'm older, that shit annoys me. Like, it annoys me so much. It's like, oh, well, you know, you speak so well. You seem a little bit more civilized than the rest of them. So you're gonna be the special one. You're gonna be the one that we promote. You're gonna be the one that talks at the team meeting. You can talk at the team meeting. Oh, you can be the supervisor, or you can. It's like these little things, and it's like you don't notice it until you learn what it is, and then it becomes really abhorrent. And it's just like, I mean, the same can be said for even kids who are Black Americans but were in honor classes, you know, or went to predominantly white schools or private schools or Catholic schools or PWIs. Like, the same can be said when you become that exceptional, the token, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a frustrating thing to be a part of, because it's like, I don't want to be a part of this. And that's why I'm so vocal about Black rights. And that's why I'm so outspoken and I'm so like in your face about it, because I'm trying to like fight back against that. I'm trying to be like, you know, I actually had a teacher say this to me once in middle school. Well, you're not like the rest of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Excuse me? Like,
I've had white people tell me that when they were trying to justify their racism, that they said to my face in college. Where it was like, I mean, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about them. And I'd be like,
here's the part that makes me sad though. I have noticed that a lot of Africans buy into it, and they feed into it, and they lean into it.
Yes.
And I see it a lot. I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen it in the book community. I've seen it in normal life, where it's just like you buy into that exceptionalism and you buy into like that white savior complex in a weird way. And like, it's very off-putting because it sets a divide between you and Black Americans. And I don't like it. And like, it's so interesting because the only thing I keep thinking about is Black Panther. And I think about Black Panther because that was the major That was the major conflict of the entire film. That was the major conflict of like this othering of your own people and how you're
And I
divided.
would just like to say the woman said it first. The Black woman said to T'Challa, "This is wrong. We should do this to fix it." T'Challa,
We
no,
literally have an entire
we
live
don't do that.
Black women
And
saying
then here comes the volatile, quote unquote, volatile Black American, and all of a sudden, we need to fix the problems. I'm like, bruh.
So what's funny is I was gonna hit y'all with a random question, and it was a Black Panther question. Yeah, because I was gonna say, so I was like, so let's talk about this idea that Black Americans need to be saved by Africans. And that's basically what happened with Black Panther. Even though you're right, Nakia was like, I'm out here doing the work because y'all won't, because Black people are constantly saving the world by them
all the time and get no recognition.
There's this idea in African communities that Black Americans don't have culture. You know, we talked about it. They don't know who they are. They don't know where they come from. So they're the savages. They're just out there lost. Poor them. Oh, it's so sad. But what I've come to learn after living in America for most of my life, Black Americans do have culture.
It's just stolen.
The culture is stolen, it's appropriated, and it's not respected. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. When the whole world copies your culture to be cool, you can't say you don't have a culture. You know what I'm saying? And so that to me is not valid. Like, just because there's a disconnect from the motherland, from the African continent, just because you can't trace your ancestors back however many generations, just because you're not 100% sure what country you come from or tribe, at least without those tests, which I have an opinion on those tests. That's a whole nother.
Thank you. That's a side conversation for later.
That does not mean that you are lost or you are nothing or you don't, like, it's one thing if as a Black American you choose to go back to Africa and you choose to try to trace your roots and find out more about your origins. I think that's very admirable. But I don't think that it automatically means that you're less than or that you're just lost or you don't have a culture. Because I remember running across a YouTube channel. I can't remember the girl's name, and I feel terrible about this. But she is very strong in her stance of, I do have a culture. You know, okay, yes, my ancestors were slaves and were brought here, but my whole family for generations lived in DC. Like, this is who we are. This is our culture. This is what we do. And I like that because I don't like this idea that because you were brought here against your will, your ancestors were brought here, then all of a sudden you don't have a culture. That doesn't make sense to me, because culture is what you make, what you create, where you are. And if it's something that's being done for generations, then that's a culture, you know? Yeah. So I don't know, that frustrates me. Like, when, especially because I, you know, talk to a lot of other Africans and some of them hold those same beliefs, especially Nigerians. And they're just like, well, you know, Black Americans, they don't know. They're lost. They're lost.
Sierra Leoneans too. No,
they don't know who they are. They like any little thing that happens is like, well, you know, they don't know, you know. And it's like I've had multiple conversations with like family members, like, it's not okay for you to feel this way and to express these beliefs. Like, this is wrong.
I've had Nigerian men tell me that they could train me to be a proper.
You can't even train Nigerian women. Shut up.
I'm done.
Houston has a plethora of overconfident Nigerian men that I have just been like, where did you come from?
They're all useless.
They are so aggressive.
Okay, like 2% on.
Woo!
So why?
The diaspora, as far as I've seen it, I've always, well, not always, I've noticed that it's one or the other. Like, is it Deanne or Diane? Diane, right?
I think it's Deanne. I've always said not.
Yeah. I've heard you say it on your channel, but that was a while ago. Forgive me. I've been trying to keep up.
Everybody's name. No one gets offended by me anymore.
I get offended, so I'll be trying to say it correctly. So she was talking about the fact that she's not Haitian enough and she's not American enough. Since I've been here for Dean, Okay. Dean was saying that earlier, that she's not Haitian enough, she's not American enough. As a non-citizen, which I have to argue this to people. They're like, "Oh, you've been here for so long, you're American." I'm like,
No.
except for the fact that I was not born here. I grew up here. I'm literally an African who was raised here for like formative years, but like I still have both. Like, while the rest of y'all used to be able to call the police on your parents, I was being whipped with extension cords like other black children. And I was doing, oh, no black children? It was just me. I was whipped with
No,
extension.
I was whipped with everything.
Oh, me too.
Hot covers, spoons, phones, and when I say this, they're like, "Oh, well, no." And then the Africans tell me, "Oh, well, you sound." I've literally had, because I don't know if this is derogative or not. Is the A word derogative? The A word that Africans use to talk about Black Americans?
Oh, don't use
I
that word.
always thought it was. Is it not?
Okay, that's why I specifically said the A word. I didn't want to say it.
I fought somebody for calling me the A word.
Yeah,
So
I don't know. This is why I say the A word. I be checking. So they said, oh, Isata is the A word, and they were speaking Pidgin Creole for us, and people don't know, because again, dickhead, but a quiet dickhead. I just kind of stand there and act like I don't understand and I don't hear anything. So I was speaking to my mom, and this one was recent. It was at a funeral, by the way, and they were having this conversation while I was helping. I didn't have to help. I just came from work. I could have gone home. So I told my mom about it, and my mom, being lovely, she went off on them. She goes, "Why would you?" My daughter wasn't born here, but there's this divide within the African community and outside of it, where there's some Africans who feel like because they know where they came from, they remember being at home, they are better than. Oh, we're not gonna say it. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know.
You can spell it in the chat, but it is the equivalent of saying the N word, but it's usually when some Africans call African Americans the word. It's a derogatory term that we don't use here.
No. Here's the thing, though. I 100% agree with Isata about that divide within the African community in itself. Like, I've literally had relatives and friends tell me, "You're too Americanized. You forgot to
everything. Like, you don't know yourself."
Yes.
I love y'all accents right now. I hate y'all.
Because legit, I'm now at the point. When I was younger, I used to go to African parties. And African parties, you have to greet every single individual adult.
Yes.
We, unlike Nigerians, we didn't have to bow.
Yes.
But we don't bow. We just come, "Hi, auntie, hi, uncle." Now, as I got older, and as they said, I was I don't know what they like to say. I was feeling myself, okay? It wasn't really that I was feeling myself. It's just that I'm over disrespectful adults thinking that I owe them something. And that might be the American in me, but I've seen grown African adults do the same thing. They don't speak to everybody. So I'm not going out of my personal way, even though I am younger than you, to speak to you if I don't particularly like you. Now, if I'm right next to you and I see you, I will speak to you. "Hi, auntie. Hi, uncle." And this way we can avoid that whole me greeting you and you saying, "Oh, hey, you. Where's your mother?" Because they don't remember your name. But if they see your mom, then they'll remember your name. I don't want to play this game with you. My feet hurt. I like this song. I just want to get through the song and go sit. And we can both act like we never saw you. Like, it's fine.
Oh, no.
But to force me to have to do this, and then you tell me, "Oh, she doesn't know her culture." But I've noticed within our culture specifically, Houston is a big Nigerian community. There's a big Nigerian community in Houston. And unfortunately, my older cousins, because they were born here, they don't really know Sierra Leonean culture, so they've adopted Nigerian culture as their own. And it's not even like a tribal Yoruba culture or Igbo culture or any other like Asaba, no specific culture. They just like Nigerian as a whole, and it's one thing. And they use Nigerian things as theirs. And I don't knock it because, hey, do what you do. But I always look at them like, that's not the way we do that. That's not a thing for Sierra Leoneans. But there's that divide, and then there's the divide of you aren't technically African American, or somebody specifically said to me, no, you're not Black, you're African. Because if somebody says you're Black, they're talking about African Americans. If they say you're African, then that means you're not Black. And I'm looking like, you sure? Because
what?
when I look,
Yeah,
I'm Black.
And there's between a rock and a hard place.
Africans, there's Arabic Africans who say that they're not African, but that's not the conversation we're having.
Nope, that's a whole other topic.
It's just, I've noticed within the diaspora, there's such a drastic divide. Jamaicans get offended if you remotely mistaken them for anything close to African, which is why I understood when the whole debate about Latinos and Hispanics and Mexicans and Salvadorians, when that whole conversation came up, I completely understood, because I hate when people say, oh, you're Nigerian, and you didn't ask me. Not that there's anything wrong with Nigerians, but you didn't ask me. You just assumed incorrectly. But you wouldn't like it if I said you're African. You would be appalled, like there's something wrong with being African, when in reality, this divide is caused by, one, racism, two, the media. Over the years, the reason why so many African parents have issues with Americans and like their African children interacting with American children is because of things they've seen on TV. They never stop and think about the people like Michael Jackson or Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, as we used to call him, who are Black American. They think about Boys in the Hood, which, yeah, we also watched. They see all those movies that are being sent about these Black American boys who are thugs. They see CNN, where the world news is about the Black on Black crime.
Yep.
That's why it's detrimental, because for those of us who saw it, that's what they see. So that's their understanding of Black Americans. And then we come here and that's already in their head, just like Americans have this thing in their head where we all walk around naked because National Geographic has gone to the most remote place where there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that that's not the only Africans. And they go to these remote places and they show these remote tribes. And then after they do that, I now have to have questions like, so does bird poop fall on your head when you sleep on the tree branches? And I now have somebody in this world believing that bird poop is a great exfoliant, which is why I never used to break out. Yeah, because we're not going to do the dumb stuff by middle school. We're not. I'm hoping by now they know better. But yeah, that these things, the way the media portrays us makes us think something is wrong with the other. And that's the divide that we didn't cause.
There's a lack of education overall, because I did get the really stupid questions. And even to this day, Africa is used as a monolith word to encompass a ginormous continent that has so many countries within it. And from north to east, west to south, all the cultures are so different. And even within one country, there's so many different cultures within even one country. And like trying to explain to people that just because I'm Nigerian doesn't mean I'm Igbo or Yoruba. There are hundreds and hundreds of tribes. Both of my parents are from like two of the smaller tribes. And that was one of the most frustrating things was explaining to people, because people would always assume I was Yoruba when they start speaking Yoruba to me. And I was like, I'm not Yoruba. Like, no, we're not all Yoruba or Igbo. Like, those are two really big ethnic groups there. Yes, absolutely. But there are hundreds of different tribes. And what y'all don't understand is that when Africa was carved up and divided between Great Britain, France, Spain, and whoever, Germany, they literally came and like drew these lines on the map, and they did not care if the people did not get along that they were grouping together into these countries. I mean, the country that is now known as Nigeria literally encompassed ethnic groups that had been in civil wars with each other for like decades. And they're like, oh, y'all are a country now. And it's like, but I fucking hate them. So people don't understand history, and not just, Nigerian history, but the history of Africa as a continent and the colonization that has gone on, and the newness of a lot of countries that have just won independence in the last 40 years, 50, 50, yeah. So to me, that was very frustrating, trying to explain to people, like, you haven't done your research. You have no idea what you're talking about. And then, so it's like you have to fight other people outside of your community. Then you have to fight people within your community. Then you have to fight other Black people from throughout the diaspora. So it's like a constant battle. And that's why I think that a lot of Africans who live in the Western world, not just America, but Africans who've immigrated to, Great Britain or places in Europe, etc., have like a hardness to them when it comes to Black Americans and Black people elsewhere, because they've had such negative experiences and they've had to fight so many different battles on so many different fronts. But it's like either you're just gonna be hardened and you're just gonna basically be to yourself like an island and have these negative views, or you're gonna actually educate yourself and understand why these divisions were put into place in the first place and how strategic they are to divide us all and how they're working. They've been working.
Can't fight it if you don't know. Research.
Yeah.
Research.
That's why we don't like JFK. If you don't believe me, go look up JFK and Mali and Ghana and Nigeria. We don't trust them.
I was gonna talk about that at one point, but then I realized that would turn us into like a 4-hour live because we'd have to do a history lesson about most U.S. presidents involved in the continent of Africa is trash. And it's another reason why we are divided as people. I'm gonna ask a funny question now.
Okay.
So Black Prose, yeah, we highlight Black people. We know we have a clear diaspora of Black people watching us, but we also know we have other nationalities of people watching us, other races of people watching us. So in this particular segment, the question to you two is, what are some things that you would like Americans to stop asking you just because you are a Black immigrant?
Please go first. Please go first.
Why? Yeah.
Because someone else has to say it besides me.
No, please go. You're the second best. Take it away.
Do you guys chase lions?
Stop. Somebody asked you that?
Do you guys chase lions? With all the excitement in the world. I said, I've never seen a lion. How are you African? What?
Because when I said that I grew up in Japan, they asked me if I saw ninjas. So I should be able to.
I did want to ask you if you saw any war memorabilia, because you said Okinawa, and I remember that there was like a Battle of Okinawa.
Yeah.
So but
There's
that's
a lot of that is a valid question. Ninjas and Power Rangers is not.
No, it's not. Neither are elephants, and neither. Oh my God, this gets serious. No, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
We can go to another question if it's too much.
Go ahead, actually. No, that part was funny.
I'm tired of answering questions about my name. Like people who they want to act, mostly white people, honestly, they want to act like, oh, it's so hard to pronounce, and then they become very. One thing I've noticed about white people is that they're very entitled, and I get it. Y'all rule the world and have for a very long time now, so I understand that entitlement. But it's like we're now telling you that it's not okay. Like old white people, I just be letting it go. But younger white people, it's really annoying. So it's like, oh, your name is so interesting. Where is it from? Oh, how do you spell it? Oh, it doesn't spell the way it sounds. Oh, what is the meaning of it? Oh, who are you named after? Like, this is why I don't like to wear my name tag at work, because then they'll just stare at it. It's like they're trying to figure it out, and then they just can't take it anymore, and they have to start asking questions. And it's like, for me, I would never go up to somebody and be like, oh, wow, your name is Mary Elizabeth. Oh, it's so interesting. Were you named after the Queen? Was your family from Great Britain? Like, it's like, sometimes I want to do to them what they do to me, just because what you don't understand is it literally makes me feel like an exhibit in a museum or in a zoo. Like I'm not a person. These questions are very objectifying. And it's like, you literally want me to sit here and tell you my entire family history, my background. Like, you are a stranger. I do not want to talk to you about these things. So that is like my number one pet peeve, like number one. Like, oh, it's so beautiful. Oh, I love this. Oh, is it French? No, it sounds French though. Are you from France?
Oh, we had some colonizations by the French, so maybe you should say that. They'll stop asking questions.
They have to call you by your colonizers.
As soon as you say colonizers, they'll stop asking. Just say we were colonized by the French. You weren't. You were colonized by the English, I believe. But still,
it literally just wants to make me turn around and go like, oh wow, your name is like Irene. Oh, is that German, Irish, or Scottish? I can't quite remember.
I'm very petty. I've been like, Who was
Then
that? The 8th, 9th? Was he the one doing his cousin? Which one was it? Where did your name come from?
Oh, see, I answer all the questions at once. I used to hate when they would say the word, I still hate it. I don't like the word ethnic.
When they would say,
I don't care when Black people say it, but to be honest, if you're looking at this video, I don't like when white people ask me or say, oh my God, your name is so ethnic. I don't think that's a compliment. If you thought it was, it's not a compliment. It doesn't make me feel special. It doesn't make me feel like I'm a special little butterfly or a snowflake. I don't like it. Oh, your name. How do you, my name is Isata, kind of like isotopes, Isata. It doesn't really mean anything. Where I got it doesn't matter, but my name is really super common, like kind of like how Ashley, it's like that Isata. There's a lot of Isatas in my country. There's Isatas in other countries. It's just spelled different. And then there's variations of Isata. There's also Aisha. There's Aisha. Yep, my name's not that special. And then after that, they don't want to have the conversation. And if they want to, I'll just bring up English colonizers, and they get the fragility just creeps up on them, and they leave me alone. Dickhead in action, I'm telling you.
see, I'm the kind of person.
Can we stop for a second? Novelist Dean, this comment. Even when I was born here, they asked if I really eat cats and mud cakes.
Mm-hmm.
How did y'all not fight people? Like, I'm not trying to be funny.
There's no reason to. When you find out you can have fun. Well, I didn't.
You would be fighting people every minute of every day. Like,
and
it's exhausting. I could tell you all of the things that I go through on a daily basis, and so it's frustrating because it's like you want to be treated like a human being and not like an exhibit or some exotic, animal or bird or something weird. And it's almost like people, specifically white people, but it's almost like non-Black people feel like they're doing something special by inquiring as into your background or your name or your culture. And it's like, no, because I'm not coming up to you and doing the same shit. Like, because, your history and culture is forced upon us. So I probably know more about your culture and history than you do. But it's just like,
especially because to be a citizen, you have to.
Yes, we have to pass that test.
That they can't pass. Mm-hmm.
But it's like, it's like they'll never be in that position to know what it's like for someone to literally treat you like a science project or some kind of exotic creature. And they don't understand how dehumanizing it is. Like when you literally just want someone to be like, oh, Shalay, it's nice to meet you. Love your name. Just like, when I meet other people with names that I like, and I'm like, oh, really?
That's really pretty.
And I leave it as that. I really like your name. Period. The end. They're like, oh, wow. So that's
Dean,
like,
I'm going to slide into your DMs, just so you know.
What now?
I was telling Dean I'm going to slide into her DMs. Can I ask a quick question real quick? Shalay, how do you feel about the movie Coming to America? Because I know how I feel.
Why did you take my last question? That was going to be my last one because I've heard some very interesting things from non-Black Americans.
I love that movie. Because here's the thing. I watched Coming to America when I was a very young child in Nigeria. And we watched it understanding that it was a spoof and that it was not real and that it was a comedic film. Like even as a child, like I remember my whole family sat down and we watched the whole movie together, and it was one of my favorite movies. And to this day, it's still one of my favorites. And we would just laugh and we just thought it was so funny.
I didn't like it, and it's not because of the movie. Okay, first of all, I had beef with Eddie Murphy. Obviously, this is one-sided beef. I had beef with Eddie Murphy and Martin. I had beef with Eddie Murphy until I was like 16 when I watched.
This one-sided beef till you were 16.
One-sided beef. And then I watched Delirious, and then I forgave him because I got so sick and tired of people and this food joke, and I had no idea where it was coming from. And you have to understand, like, being 9 or 10 and being called mfumfu or whoever and being asked about bones in my nose and plates in my mouth. And I don't, when someone's telling you a joke and they keep laughing and you keep asking what they're talking about, but they won't stop laughing long enough to tell you, and they never tell you, but they keep laughing.
Yeah.
That's why I had beef with him. Then Martin Lawrence, I don't know who, when, where, why this happened, but I want to make the clarification. Every single person on this earth scratches their butt. Everybody.
Oh my God.
Everyone does it. It's normal. It's human. If you do it too much, you might want to get checked, but it's normal. You have a Sierra Leonean godmother? We gonna be friends, Miss WOC. I'm Sierra Leonean, so
Y'all are just giving guys out to our friends.
But I don't like the fact that the whole African booty scratcher, like, to be honest, I barely started letting that go. I know as an adult, I understand kids are kids, but this was also adults who would say these things about African booty scratchers. And to be honest, I know things are just comedy. I get it. Like, again, I watched Delirious and I watched Raw when I was older, then I understood the context. So it made me feel better. But just the representations of Africa by African Americans has bothered me. However, I'm thankful for it because it's made me more sympathetic to like other cultures and like the LGBTQ community. When they say we don't like our representation, I'd be like, I feel you, because when they were making fun of us, I didn't like it. So when we make fun of, I see like, cool, say no more. But that whole, these misrepresentations added with y'all never actually having, like, to me, a good joke is a joke that's like based in fact, but it has like some comedy. Like when Godfrey makes the joke about leaving voicemails on African parents' phones after they have this 5-minute message and then they ask for their wife to come. That, cool, I get it. But if your joke is like about bones in my nose, and I'm like, bro, didn't y'all have bones in your noses in Europe? Wasn't that like a trend? That's a thing. That was a European thing. Yeah. And I get it. It's a joke. It wasn't meant as harmful, but it was harmful to my psyche because, hey, funny, all these American children calling me mfunfu, and I'm like, fufu, because I like fufu, but that's not what they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it was just very traumatic. That, and again, we all scratch our butts. It's the thing. We all do it. African booty scratcher is not a thing. There's American booty scratchers. There's Asian booty scratchers. We all do it. Let it go.
You know what's so interesting? I was never called African booty scratcher. I didn't even know that was a thing. I don't know how I
called an African booty snatcher, and I fought somebody for it.
But I don't know how I escaped being called that, but I did. And like,
because you separated yourself from the people who would call you that.
You were also in Pennsylvania, where you said you was in like the whitest of white towns.
That's
yeah. Why. But even when I moved down here, like to where I live now, like I just never had that experience. But what I find interesting is like, as you were talking, I kept thinking about how it's like a weird push and pull thing, because it's true. Like the portrayal of Africans by African Americans is like cringeworthy, and a lot of us don't like it. But also the portrayal of African Americans by Africans is also problematic. So it's like this weird thing where I just think about stuff like that a lot, because I think about in Hollywood, like how they're always choosing like African actors to play like African American icons, and then the African American community gets upset, and
then they use African American actors to play African icons.
Yeah, and then the Africans get upset, and I'm like, are they doing this on purpose?
So do we blame each other, or do we blame Hollywood for that?
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Who do you blame?
Because it's kind of like you want to let Africans tell their stories, and you want to let African Americans tell their stories. It's not that hard. Like, just let each community tell their own stories. And especially now you have this huge new generation of, we call ourselves first generation or second generation. Now we have like second gen. But you have this huge community of first gen and second gen immigrants who, it's like what we were discussing earlier, you feel more American than whatever African background you have because you've lived in America for so long and become Americanized. So we call each other like, oh, I'm first generation or I'm second generation.
Dean threw shade. That was a good movie, though, dude. That was a good movie. That was a good movie. I don't care. It was a good movie.
Into the chat, and it's just like, okay,
that was still a good movie.
I mean, yeah. Well, here's my thing with it.
I boycotted that movie.
I can't blame the African actors who play African Americans, nor can I blame the African Americans who play Africans, because it's literally the only roles that they're like allowed to play in Hollywood. And if we don't play them, they're going to get Zoe Saldana to blackface again, and we can't have that either.
Not again.
Green face is better. Apology. That was weak.
Oh, yeah, the apology after she pocketed the coin.
Wait, she apologized, but she was so vehement about taking the role.
She apologized this week.
Crying about how she's sorry.
Earlier this week, she did like a.
Oh, I guess. I mean, if what's his name, Gilbert Arenas could apologize 12 years later for something nobody asked him to say, I guess Zoe Saldana can apologize too. I'm gonna take it from a black woman. I mean, wait, is she black again, or does she still?
I don't know. She specifically told us that she was not black.
But then remember, she also specifically said she's not Hispanic, which she could have mentioned Latina, but I don't know.
I know at one point she said that she was Afro-Latina, to justify her playing Nina Simone.
Here's the thing.
Oh, like how Evelyn was Afro-Latina to justify saying that. Oh, that's so cute. That's nice. Okay.
The awkward thing though was that in her apology, she said, I shouldn't play the role. I should have let it go to a black woman. But then she turned around and said, I am a black woman. So I was like, I love how certain celebrities love to tiptoe around things and refuse to call out colorism and refuse to call out featureism, and it just kills me. I'm like,
I will forever be like, shout out to Zendaya, who is the only aware of.
This is known.
Whoa, hold on. Both of y'all are talking at the same time, one at a time. Brittany, you said?
I was saying shout out to Zendaya because so far she's the only one that straight up was like, so y'all not gonna cast me as the icon light-skinned black girl when there are dark-skinned girls that can play that part, because it's supposed to be a dark-skinned girl. Shout out to Zendaya. I will always stand for her, and she's beautiful.
Yes, I love Zendaya. And Isatel, you were saying?
I was saying the same thing she was saying. I said that's why I always, because to me, everyone talks about, oh, this new generation, oh, Generation Z. And I'm like, didn't they used to say that about us? And didn't they say that about y'all? Like, this new generation, honestly, they're perfect. They throw the best shade. They're here for all the screenshots. They have all the receipts. And they legit stand up to everybody for everything. I mean, some of them, they're kind of iffy, but we all were at some point. We all did weird stuff. We all did it. Like we were, what was it? Glue sniffing. I didn't partake in that. I did sniff Sharpies. No lie. I did. They smelled good. They smelled good. They smelled really good.
They do.
And expo markers. They smelled good. I wasn't trying to do anything with it. It just smelled good. I didn't.
I
wasn't sniffing glue. I just thought Sharpie smelled good. Sorry. I wasn't eating Tide Pods.
I'm too Asian for this, so I'm gonna let y'all have this. You didn't do none of that. Nope.
You didn't sniff glue or Sharpies or markers?
Why? What?
Or
why?
pencils?
You know? Did you at least stack the little pencil thingies? Like the little leads, you remember, like the retractable lead pencils? Did you at least stack them on top of
now? I have a whole stack of them that I got from my friend from Japan.
You stack them on top of each other and then make a cute little tower?
Yeah.
Okay, see, then we all do our own weird stuff. See, it's fine. We sniff markers.
And we're talking about the fruit scented candles. They didn't say fruit scented. They said Sharpie.
No. This wasn't the fruit scented. These were the Expo.
They were some chemicals.
The Expo and the Sharpies.
No.
They smell good.
No. First of all, the only place we had those was in school. So we definitely wasn't sniffing them back then. Then what?
It just smell good.
That thing where you put glue all over yourself, let it dry, and then peel it off.
Okay, that I did because
you know what?
For wasting glue, I got in trouble for that.
You know what I used to do? Don't judge me too hard. So I still don't know how to sew, but when I learned how to thread a needle, right? You know how you have your dermis and your epidermis, and then you have that.
I know where she's going with this.
That's good that you know, because that means you've done it or you've seen it. So I used to take the thread and just
right on the outer layer.
My whole palm, and then I just pull it out. And I had no purpose. I had no reason. It just looked cool. And I was like, look, I'm not bleeding. It's fine, but this generation also is entitled to their own weirdness.
I mean, but to be fair, none of that sounded like it sent you to the hospital. Tide Pods were actually killing them. Like, because they were actually inhaling like whole pods. One day we're going to talk about weird stuff we did as a kid and compare it to Gen Z, because Gen Z likes to talk a lot of junk about millennials. Like
that's because they get talked about a lot by us.
I had to remember, first of all, that like people that I thought were Gen Z were actually us. Because Gen Z doesn't start until 95 or 96. So all the people I thought, I was trying to push them off to the next generation. No, they're in ours. So I stopped trying to figure all that out, because it was just like, he's one of us. He was born in 92. He's one of us. Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm not judging you, I swear.
It's fine. There was a choking game.
I'm sorry, what?
I only learned about that because of Dr. Phil. People used to get in like the circles and then just choke each other. This was our generation. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Straight to the hospital.
I was not in the States, so keep this in mind. For the first time ever, a choking game.
Just look up choking game Dr. Phil. He talked about it.
If I type that in, it's going to give me some weird BDSM stuff.
On YouTube, and make sure you filter.
I like being choked now, but as an adult. I'm not going to be choked as a child. What?
First of all,
I appreciate you for your honesty.
Amber's like, ma'am.
I appreciate this honesty so much.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
This is why we like the same books.
This is an adult live. It's okay.
I just want to say that we appreciate you. We appreciate you for taking the time to come out and say hey to us and join us.
Yes, we really do.
I just, we talking DMs all the time. One day we're gonna like actually meet, because we live in about the same
After the Rodas.
Do you have any other questions, Brittany?
No, y'all took my funny questions were about like African versus African American actor thing. Y'all took that already. It's fine.
Oh yeah, because the other stuff. Can I is Naomi Campbell African? No, she's not. She's Jamaican, right?
Who?
Naomi Campbell.
I'm pretty sure she is African, isn't she?
No, she just be around a lot of African diplomats, I think.
No, I gotta look that.
Naomi.
She's always just been so positive for the African people.
I just love her in general. Her entire mood is a vibe.
She's a whole mood. I'm telling you, she's a whole mood.
I love her.
Naomi Elaine Campbell is an English model, actress, and businesswoman. But where were you?
Gives her background.
Jamaican.
No, she was born in the United Kingdom.
Yeah. She
is a Jamaican-born dancer.
There we go. How about this Jamaican-born dancer?
She is of Afro-Jamaican descent as well as of
Chinese Jamaican.
She's goals.
So her paternal grandmother was Chinese.
Can we pause for a second? What the heck is this? I remember us pushing on your chest while you hold your breath against the wall so you couldn't try not to pass out.
That's the choking game. Dean, how old are you? That's one of us. I'm just gonna hope Generation X, so I can say it wasn't us.
Let's talk about the books that we're reading. Anything interesting before we close out this live? Let's wrap it back around.
Oh my gosh. Oh man, that was wild. I just
Oh, okay, cool. You're Gen Z. Cool. Yes, girl, Gen Z. Speak up for yourself, Gen Z. That's right. Thank God. Thank the Lord.
Novelist was born in 1999, but I
Not
for
one
the
of us.
longest time I just assumed she was a millennial. Like she was in the
Me
millennial
too.
for the
I
longest
always
time.
forget how young Novelist actually is.
It's a couple people that we interact with regularly, and then they tell me the age, and I'm like,
Wait, how old are you, Brittany?
I'm 31.
Oh, okay. How old are you, Oshla?
I don't reveal my age.
That's fine. You're a lady. It's okay.
I mean, it's not hard to guess.
It's not. we
You
announced.
said you got here at 7, and you. Oh, okay, cool.
Oh.
So,
I come from a tradition that after a certain point, you just don't tell people your age anymore, or you just say the same number every year.
Is that the American tradition or is that the African tradition? Because the African tradition, you just say you're 18.
Yep.
Okay.
Like you don't even ask in my like culture. Like it's considered disrespectful.
Oh, we just sing happy birthday and say you're 25. We just
Yes.
we don't even anymore.
wow.
But I just finished reading Fast by Millie Belizaire. That book was so worth it. It was just worth it.
I really want you to read The Garden of Eden because
I wanted to. However, somebody told me to read Twilight. So.
Okay.
Like the Twilight.
We're doing a Twilight buddy read right now, and we're only the first book, and then we're gonna discuss it. A critical read.
I used to love, by the way, I was fine with the first 2 books, and I was fine because I never revisited. I was fine with the first 2 books.
How are you now?
Y'all do that? Can I come on there just to drag Bella one good time?
Oh my God, I will drag her right along with you. I was fine.
I want to drag Edward also for an entirely different reason.
Why? He's dead. Does he matter?
Why are you like this?
I was like,
she's not ready.
I was a little shook on that one. Like, wait. Dang. I refuse to reread that series. I just feel like there's just a lot of other things that are worth reading.
This is worth the drag.
Or rather, now that you finish that book, what are you reading next?
I have. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you can go because I don't know.
I was just gonna say that I got the newest book that's supposed to be from Edward's perspective. I'm not promoting it on any of my socials because people from certain marginalized communities have really urged us to not support that book or that author. So I'm doing my part by not like promoting it or advertising it. I'm just gonna read it on my own. But yeah, so that's kind of why I wanted to reread Twilight. I'm by no means gonna put myself through rereading the entire series, but I do want to, at least read that first book as a refresher and then read the new one.
Just tell me what exactly he smelled. I know it was something strawberries, but just tell me exactly how he described sniffing Bella for the first time. I just want to know. I have to know.
I got you.
Can you imagine somebody just walking into the room? Like there was a show, it's an old show, it was a Chinese show. Don't ask me why I used to watch it. I used to watch it before I came to America. It's called Journeys to the West. And there was a like a monkey god and a pig god. And the pig, like whenever he was like near something, his nose, that was some really good makeup back in the day. His nose would like move up and down. So like the first time I read it in my head, when he said he could sniff her, I just saw his
nose flaring.
That made it significantly less romantic for me, but I was like, hey,
oh snap!
Y'all like what we like.
Oh my God. Shoot, Oshale, what do you mean?
So I'm in a little tiny bit of a reading slump in the sense that I found that I can start books, but it's really hard for me to finish them right now. So
We should read Douglas to fix that.
You see, Penelope Douglas and I have a very complicated relationship where I like some of her books and I'm scared to read the other ones. So I'm okay with that.
That's fine. Yeah, the ones I'm reading are kind of scary. It's fine.
Okay, see? Yeah.
Jacinta Howard. I'm on the 4th book of the Prose.
Oh, I love Jacinta Howard. She is
all
my
I
babe.
hear is romance.
Sorry, the last non-romance I read disappointed me, and I still have War Girls because I was still in my feelings about the last non-romance I read, which was Obsidio, which was garbage.
Isn't that the... Never mind.
Illuminae, last book. Garbage.
I mean, it's fine. I talk junk like this to Ursula and Troy all the time.
You do.
Oh, I shouldn't say that here where people can get offended. This is my opinion. This is not their opinion.
Here in this book club, it's very clearly stated that we all have opinions and it's perfectly fine and valid to have your own opinion. Just don't be disrespectful to anybody. That's all.
Okay. I wanted to suggest something, and I want y'all to know if this sounds like something you want to be a part of. I want to do a Tiffany D. Jackson month. All we read.
Wait, that's a lot of trauma.
Yeah, I was like, I can do one Tiffany Jackson book a month, maybe. Because every time I read Tiffany Jackson, by the end of the book, I am really crying, like real tears.
I wasn't crying after I read Allegedly. Allegedly had me shook.
Allegedly had me sitting in the dark in the quiet for at least like an hour after the book was over. Monday's Not Coming had me ugly crying by the last 30 pages. I was like ugly.
I cried, but I saw it coming.
I did, but I didn't.
You do see coming. I still need to read Let Me Hear a Rhyme, and now Grown is coming up.
It wasn't.
I heard Let Me Hear a Rhyme wasn't as great or impactful as her other ones.
Because in comparison to her other ones are like thrillers and hard hitting.
But it's a lighter read.
Yes, it's contemporary. It comes across as severely juvenile in comparison to the other books, which isn't bad. It's just like you got us used to the trauma life, and now you out here giving us.
You got me so used to wondering how shook I was going to be at the end of the book that like reading a book that was calm would have me like, Tiffany?
Like what? Right, you got me needing to see a therapist because I'm like, what is wrong with me?
Listen, allegedly had me reevaluating a lot of things. Like I was literally sitting in the dark in my room, just staring at the ceiling, like, hey.
I want to reread that book.
Monday's Not Coming had me distraught. Like for some reason, I did not like the ending of Monday's Not Coming, and like I predicted that. Well, I can't do that. I don't want to spoil it if nobody's ready.
I predicted a few things.
I predicted some things, but like the way that it ended,
I didn't see that part.
I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
But the trauma, the actual trauma, the thing, I saw that coming because there was one character that was it was not Monday. There was a character that was actually missing throughout the book, and I kept saying, "How come?"
No spoiler.
Nobody was noticing this.
I was about to say,
there are people that haven't read this.
If you've never read Tiffany D. Jackson, I definitely highly recommend Tiffany D. Jackson. I don't feel like she gets enough love. Like,
I agree.
I feel like Grown is the first book that I remember that I can remember from Tiffany D. Jackson as being pushed.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's only being pushed like that because Black trauma ensued right at the time that the book was really like being pushed by publishers. And now that it's cool to read Black, her book is being pushed. Granted, I have not decided if I'm putting it in the Black trauma section yet, though. We'll see. Because
you know who's really underrated? Beverly Jenkins. I just had to say her here. That's all.
Is Beverly Jenkins really considered?
Beverly Jenkins really is. Like, you'd be surprised how many people have not read Beverly Jenkins.
Whenever I ask for Black romance, I get Beverly Jenkins, Talia Hibbert, and Alyssa Cole.
And yet, have you read Beverly Jenkins?
Huh?
Have you read Beverly Jenkins?
Well, you know I can't because the library is
still underrated.
The girl is like the books that they have. I don't know if I'm convinced that there's a girl that checked out like a plethora of romance books, and it's just in her house holding on to them, and just they've not. I'm still number 3 on the list. Like the first person has still not returned. Wow, sorry guys.
Disrespect.
what happens when I tell people I'm on a live and they still call.
Mm.
But yeah, I looked at that and I was like, dang, I'm getting books that I like pre-ordered. Like what I read the romance in April and I'm still number 3. What
Yeah.
does her money, like how much money is she paying y'all by now?
Yeah, and fine.
I should have been had the book by now.
Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah, so I'm not paying for Kindle Unlimited.
An Audible Escape, which why would you pay for? Scratch that last one. I forgot who I was talking to.
So I just made my switch from Audible over to Libro FM.
Mm-hmm.
What's Libro FM?
So it's a different audiobook platform that, because Audible is run by Amazon and Amazon is kind of monopolizing a lot right now. And with their Amazon originals or Audible originals, they're basically making it so other bookstores and booksellers cannot get access to those audiobooks, and you can only get them through Amazon/Audible. So Libro FM is great because essentially they support independent and small booksellers. So when you have a audiobook subscription through Libro FM, you can either choose the small independent bookstores that you would like to support in your community, like specifically, you could specifically choose one, or you could just say you want to support all of the ones on their roster. So I switched over. And they have a special right now that if you are switching over from Audible, they'll give you like 2 books.
Is it similar to Audible and where you get like a credit?
Yeah, it's literally the exact same concept. It's just instead of putting more money in Amazon's pockets and helping them basically monopolize every freaking area of commerce, you're actually supporting a platform that is actually supporting small bookstores and independent bookstores with their coins.
And it's the same price?
Yeah.
These are good questions.
So I don't know. You do your own research, but I was just kind of like,
Black indie romance, is it a common occurrence in Libro FM? Because I'm kind of in that bag right now. And
Black indie romance?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I usually don't listen to Black indie romance. I don't like listening to romance. I like reading.
You know why?
Weird when they're like,
I quickly learned why you shouldn't.
It's like you thrust into her, and you're just like, oh.
One of the voices is always creepy, and it's not romantic. It's creepy.
It's not fun. It's weird, and like listening to the romance ruins the romance for me because either I don't like somebody's voice, I don't like their tone, like I don't like. It's just I don't like it. I'd rather read my romance.
I'd rather not read romance at all.
That's also fair.
Yeah, I just can't with romance audiobooks. Like I'm sure there's some great ones. In fact, I've listened to some entertaining ones, but as a whole, hard pass.
I am slowly reading Rebel Sisters because I'm purposely trying not to speed through it, but it's really hard.
I saw that on your video.
It's really hard. Like I tell myself like a couple chapters a day is what I'm allowed. I'm listening to Who Fears Death. I got like 2.5 more hours left.
That's Nydia Okorafor.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's actually really good. It is not the story that I was expecting, which is very interesting.
I want to get her new book. She has a new book called Ikenga.
Oh yeah, and it's about a boy. And I purposely said I wanted to read more books about Black boys, and then here she go putting out a book. I was like, well, okay.
Always clutch.
She heard me and gave me a book, so I got to go find that one. And then this is gonna sound so weird, but when I'm like steaming my face or something, I am reading the graphic novel The Black Mage, just because somebody told me that I should read it, and I wanted to see like, is it gonna be a book about a token Black guy written by a white person, or is it gonna be a story that like his color matters in a way? Like,
which is it?
So far I haven't figured it out. I'm only a couple pages in because I've only steamed my face once this week. Should have done it twice. Yeah. I've been busy.
We have some fun comments.
Oh, let me look at comments.
Princess in Theory with those fake. Oh, I hate fake African accents. The only person who did an African accent that sounded good was when I listened to Alexandria House, Let Me Free You. The Liberian accent was on point. I was shocked. I was so shocked. Because I was expecting them to do a Nigerian, because for whatever reason they do African accents all the same, and I'm like, fact for fact, Ghanaians and Nigerians don't even sound the same, so I don't understand how all of us sound the same.
Also, is James Purple Panties podcast?
Sorry, let me
listen.
Mind somebody else's business real quick.
Things got really spicy real quick.
I mean, listen. Every time we go live, it's somebody that says something on a live that ends up on a shirt or ends up being a part of our constant thought process.
Zane Purple Panties?
Purple Panties podcast.
I'm already
are the color of the title.
I'm done. I'm done with
I think, to be honest, I think that the shirt slogan for this one is, I like being choked as an adult. I feel like that's the way to go from now on. That is my new mantra. It
shouldn't say I like being choked as an adult. It should be saying I like being choked now. Like no context at all. Just like I like being choked now.
Sincerely, millennials.
2020.
Sorry. Sometimes I say things and I'm like, that was really inappropriate.
That was real.
Yeah, I mean, we have said things. There has been things said on our lives where, like, it's always the lives where my friends decide they want to pop in and support, and then I get text messages later like, "What the heck? Do y'all? What was this?" Like that Monster Smut one. I have friends like, "Oh, where did her friends be reading about monsters having sex with people?" Like that is not.
Hey, we're reading Monster Smut now.
Oh my god! If that becomes a shirt, I'm buying it. But I'm only wearing that in the house.
What do you mean if it becomes a shirt? We would have to make it one.
I know.
Why would you only wear it in the house? You don't want people to know that you know about Monster Smut?
Listen, I look very minor.
Baby face syndrome.
So if I go out with the baby face with a shirt that says I like to be choked now,
your life. That's right. That's true. Never do it if you have to take an Uber. That's for sure. Because that's
might accidentally find pedophiles. No, we're good.
I can't breathe. Oh, okay, I can breathe now.
Oh shoot!
That statement is now triggering. I just realized that after I said it.
I'm sorry. Oh. It was very funny though.
Like your timing for it was fantastic. So inappropriately fantastic. It was just like
we could only aspire.
I don't have that kind of comedic relief.
Oh god.
Oh my gosh, Tati.
No, you did not.
But did you actually, or were you lying to the people? Some of y'all wear these shirts that you don't even know what it says, and we're like, "Oh, did you have a good one?" And you got to look down. Did you really?
I legit forget what shirt I'm wearing all the time. I mean, okay, so to be clear, y'all in this Monster Smut, you had to be a part of that live the first time that Monster Smut was brought up to understand why it's such a long running joke in this book club. Like this book club has running jokes because of you guys in the chat. We would not have any of these jokes if it wasn't for y'all in the chat.
Y'all, because I'm innocent.
Oh, are you?
It surprised me if I went on that live and you were very active on that live. If I remember correctly, you were very active on that live.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Basically, y'all are inspiration for a lot of things. We have a lot of things coming up. Oshley, this is your quarter, so I'm going to let you do the final closing.
Yes. Okay. So we are coming up on our 2-hour mark. So I just want to thank every single person for joining us this evening as we discuss the Black immigrant experience in America. I'm sure there are a lot of things that we could have gone into in more detail, but I think we did a good job of basically speaking to, of our own personal experiences. And don't forget that I will be doing a read with me tomorrow. That's Saturday. What month are we in? August 8th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you join me. Make sure you have a copy of the book. Again, Behold the Dreamers by Mbolo Mbu. We will be reading it live together tomorrow, 4 p.m. Join me. See you then.
Bye, guys.
Oh, and thank you so much, Isata, for joining us.
Oh, yeah. Girl, we acting like you was a regular.
I know. Thank you so much.
Follow her at Abominable Book Girl. Thanks, guys.
Yes, go follow her on all her socials at ABOMINABLE Book.
Abominable Book Girl.
I can't say it.
Bye, guys.
Bye.